If you grew up in the American public school system between the late 1970s and the early 2000s, you might remember being called out of class one day.
You weren't in trouble. In fact, you were told you were special. You had passed the test. You were officially chosen for the Gifted and Talented Education Program. To the public, G.A.T.E was just an advanced curriculum for smart kids. But if you go down the rabbit hole of communities such as those in Facebook and Reddit, a terrifyingly different memory emerges. Hundreds of adults are starting to look back at their childhoods and ask, what were they actually doing to us? To understand this program, we first have to look at the official history. Where did the G.A.T.E program actually come from? The United States has always had a tense relationship with gifted education, but the real catalyst was the Cold War. When the Soviet Union launched Sputnik in 1957, the US panicked. They realized that national security relied heavily on identifying the brightest minds early. This led to the National Defense Education Act of 1958, which poured funding into finding STEM savants. But the official formalized G.A.T.E program we know today took shape in 1979. In 1979, California passed Assembly Bill 1040, officially creating the Gifted and Talented Education Program to replace the older, mentally gifted minor system. Federally, this culminated in the Jacob K. Javits Gifted and Talented Students Education Act of 1987. The stated reason was simple: identify children with exceptional intellectual, creative, or specific academic capabilities and give them experimental delivery of educational content. But here's where the system broke down. In the 80s and 90s, schools were notoriously terrible at explaining things to children and even to parents. Kids were frequently pulled from class by adults they didn't recognize, taken to hidden rooms, and subjected to cognitive and physical profiling without a clear explanation. According to a growing number of these survivors, those tests weren't checking your reading level. They were checking your mind. For years, people thought these memories were just weird, isolated childhood dreams. But when users began posting on forums like r/RBI and r/High Strangeness, a bizarre, uniform pattern emerged. Let's look at the actual testimony. On a thread discussing the nefarious nature of these programs, Reddit user, and forgive me for this, @YZSYGYZY, posted a chilling breakdown of their core childhood memories. I recall doing many, not all, of these tests and activities in elementary school. I recall cards that were similar to, but not exactly, Zener cards. Many of the other commonalities fit, too. I was in my school district's gifted program in the 90s, and in grades 4 through 8, all the gifted kids in my district were bused to magnet schools, but were also mostly kept separate from other students. It was very isolating, and the district program was known to me by a different name instead of G.A.T.E, but I remember some strange things happening. And down this whole entire conversation he breaks it down more into detail, which I will link in the description down below. Think about that though. Zener cards. The exact symbols used in parapsychology to test for extrasensory perception. When skeptics in the group argued that these were just standard audiologist screenings or routine school health checks. Skeptics quickly point out that the pink drink that people were very familiar with sharing the same knowledge of drinking, as well as getting free dental care, were heavily correlating with the public school fluoride swish programs in the 1980s and 90s, or pink plaque disclosing tablets. But G.A.T.E whistleblowers argued that the timing was wrong. This wasn't given to the whole class. It was given strictly to the G.A.T kids, often right before or after intensive testing. Some researchers surmise that if these operations were real, the pink liquid could have been and again, forgive me for this, benzodiazepine derivative. I believe I said that horribly wrong. I'm not sure. Or an amnesiac agent designed to disrupt long-term memory formation. They wanted the data, but they didn't want the children remembering how they gave it to them. According to some conspiracy theories out there, the School Gate program was actually a massive decentralized filtering mechanism, a dragnet deployed across the country to scan millions of children. But what were they looking for? They were allegedly scanning for specific markers: high dissociation potential, which means you have the ability to disconnect from your physical surroundings, a history of lucid dreaming or astral travel, acute psychic sensitivity, and a high capacity for pattern recognition and decoding. And this brings us to the other gateway. In the 1980s, the exact same era the G.A.T.E Act was expanding GATE in schools, the US Army and CIA were deeply embedded in Project Stargate and Project Pegasus. They were actively studying psychic warfare. In 1983, an Army Lieutenant Colonel named Wayne McDonnell was sent to investigate a program developed by the Monroe Institute called the Gateway Experience. The military discovered that by using specific binaural audio beats, they could synchronize the left and right hemispheres of the human brain. This process, called HemiSync, didn't just relax people, it induced profound altered states of consciousness, allowing subjects to experience out-of-body experiences and conduct remote viewing. The theory goes that the military needed psychic assets for the Cold War, but you can't just train anyone to remote view. You need individuals with an innate, pre-existing neural architecture. And what better way to find those children than using the standardized public school system under the guise of an IQ screening? The anomalies and such don't stop at the testings, as the actual curriculum, reported by many GATE kids, feels less like elementary school and more like an initiation into an esoteric secret society. Again, quote-unquote survivors, I don't know if I should be calling them survivors, more so maybe past students, report an obsessive focus on ancient mythology, specifically Egyptian, Sumerian, and Greek. Children were taught to read hieroglyphics and decode ancient symbols long before they ever reached a high school history class. There were weird psychological prompts, such as drawing your own shadow, manifesting your future life by drawing it into existence, and so forth. They were forced to watch highly specific movies packed with portal metaphors like The Twilight Zone, The Chronicles of Narnia, and the obscure, deeply unsettling Australian film Dot in the Whale. The deep lore of this theory suggests that these children were being introduced to what is called the human grid, or the planetary matrix. The program wasn't trying to make them smarter, it was trying to ensure that something locked deep inside human consciousness remained locked. Many adult participants report feeling like they had handlers, teachers, or school psychologists who watched them over decades, ensuring they didn't fully awaken or access their latent abilities, keeping their power neutralized or harvested for institutional control. Today, the physical GATE classrooms have largely evolved, but the gateway process itself is fully out in the open. The Monroe Institute's gateway tapes are readily available all over the internet. On Reddit, communities like r/gateway tips feature thousands of everyday people trying to achieve these exact states of altered consciousness. The horrors aren't just in the past. Modern users of these frequencies report severe side effects when diving too deep into the tapes. Some of these would consist of severe dissociation and fugue states, which means that some of these users would report completely disconnecting from time and space, experiencing terrifying temporary paralysis, and feeling trapped outside their own physical bodies, as well as negative entities, which is also a frequent topic of discussion involving encountering terrifying, non-physical presences or shadow figures while in deep meditative states. And last but not least, mental vulnerabilities. The frequencies were so powerful that community guidelines strictly warn anyone with a history of severe trauma, epilepsy, or dissociative and schizoaffective disorders to completely stay away. Was the GATE program simply a poorly communicated, experimental 1980s educational system that left weird, fragmented memories in the minds of neurodivergent kids? Or was it the ultimate wolf in sheep's clothing? A government dragnet hiding inside public schools, searching for minds capable of walking through the gateway. The next time you remember a strange childhood test, a taste of bubblegum, or a rhythmic beat in a large, dark room, ask yourself what they were really looking for. And more importantly, what did they find? And there you have it. If you did enjoy this video and would like to see more, go ahead, stick around, subscribe, like, share. And as always, I'll see every single one of you in the very next video. Bye!